Hey everyone, thank you so much for showing up to this event. I will promise you a few things before I get started. This is not a marketing spiel, so you don't have to hear about what all SentinelOne is and why we're so cool. I will tell you a little about where we're going in the future though, and that's our XDR solution. And what are people saying about it, some facts and interesting things around it, and where XDR is going in the near, hopefully in the upcoming few months for a lot of these organizations. XDR is a big thing that's kicking off. So a quick introduction of myself. My name is Boehm. I'm a technology strategist here at SentinelOne. What that means is I walk across all of SentinelOne itself, across business organizations, sales, accounting, marketing. I'm across the whole entire org. But I'm a thought leader and I provide insights from a cybersecurity perspective. Now, talking about what is like some debunking things that we hear, I want to start from a customer strategy perspective. The first thing is this ever-expanding attack surface. We, as a lot of cybersecurity professionals, the big push recently has been migrating to the cloud, hybrid orchestration, visibility, expansion. So right now, a lot of our security tools and vendors that our customers are talking about is like, hey, I just have to constantly expand my plethora of information that's being brought in. So I have these expensive tools and expensive things that are providing me insights and capabilities for each kind of scenario. So that's one challenge that we hear a lot of customers complaining about. Another one is kind of going back to the same one. We have so many different tools. It's ridiculous how many tools we have. We have to have multiple specializations, categorizations, information, and I have to have everyone specialized and skilled in them. So they're having this security challenge of saying, okay, we have all these people and all this information, all these skill sets, and then we add this new stack and solution for us, and now I have to have some other specialized tool and insight and capability for my organization. And the next challenge is just manually walking through an investigation experience, kind of going back to the complexity of all these different tools and security stack. We have these security analysts having to provide full insights and capabilities. I think one of the favorite things I see when I'm asking a security analyst, walk me from A to Z, from a full attack situation, one of the things that I see them do a lot is copy and paste from multiple different panels. And I'm like, that's ridiculous that they have to do that, but it's kind of true. They have to jump around from different tools, provide insights, and a lot of manual investigation experience. Hopefully some automation, SOAR, and other things are helping them through this journey. And then another one is skill shortage. And I'm sure, as everyone knows in here, either you're hiring or you're about to hire or you're having some challenge yourself or an incident occurs, all of a sudden you're hiring a lot of people. There's a constant skill shortage for cybersecurity professionals today. So it's one of the main challenges that we keep hearing from customers, and a lot of it's based on skill set, once again. I need someone specialized in this type of tool. I need something specialized across all these tools. How many people can say they know every tool on the market right now? Most people can't. So when you have someone who says, I've worked with GCP, AWS, Azure, and then I have multiple endpoint protection platforms under my belt, that person's snagged up pretty quickly, unfortunately. And then you walk through the next one is your reactive process and flows. So that's kind of, once again, going through and say, hey, this incident occurred, how do I handle it? Your manual orchestration and insights and capabilities. Now, that's just the challenges we're hearing from customers. When it comes to the next step is why XDR, why things are changing. One of the main ones is our ineffective tool sets. They're so complex. They're overly, they're complex, they're not intuitive, they require specializations. And in order to compile all this information together, you have these tools like a SIM, SOAR, and EPP that's driving all the story for you, and then these other tool sets are providing visibility and capability. So from an XDR perspective, that's a reason why it's growing right now, is just the complexity of all these tools. Adversaries themselves are becoming more sophisticated. We were just walking through this, I was just talking this out just a minute ago. We were talking about how adversaries are using machine learning or even AI or deployment of scripts. I've done a deployment script myself. Full automation attack, deployment machines, took less than 30 minutes. I was able to compromise an ADFS machine, gain access to a cloud domain, and then have escalated privileges, all within 30 minutes. Pretty impressive and scary at the same time. That's assuming they didn't do the right things within their environment. The next one is cloud transformation. I just kind of talked about it. It's creating all these blind spots and visibility issues when it comes to these these platforms and companies that are just saying, hey, we now evolved, we're moving to this cloud platform, we're checking out containers, and we're expanding very quickly, or we're looking at some other cloud workload capabilities on these other platforms. So that's creating some of these blind spots and misintegrations. I did a talk on Kubernetes cloud security, I think this was at Black Hat. Who the people were in there, I thought it'd be all security analysts. I want to hear the most information around security analysts around cloud Kubernetes. No, it was all the developers. They're like, I want to know what our security analysts are looking at and what they can do. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Now I can understand who my clientele is for Kubernetes workloads. And then the time to triage. The challenge we're seeing is, this is constantly brought up, if you don't have a managed service or someone's providing insights and capabilities for you, is how quickly you can triage an incident itself. And we want to be able to get them out as quickly as possible, insight as quickly as possible, and say, hey, that shouldn't be a challenge for you. It never should be a challenge of how quickly you can respond. You want to be able to consolidate everything and tell you what's going on as quickly as possible, and that's why XDR is growing as well. And then the last one is, again, having the ability to respond as quickly as possible. A lot of security analysts or SOC professionals use a PowerShell scripts, automation to provide insights, capabilities, and response. What if you didn't have to think of it, create it? What if it was already there for you? What if you could just do automation through all these APIs without any kind of tool or customizations? It's just built in. That's why XDR is growing as well. So just to kind of talk about the tool sets, I'll start bringing up. ESG did a great report. This is just kind of giving you an idea. Most customers have multiple different vendor organizations they're working with, and on average between 25 to 49 different tools. If you're looking at a large organization, you can say 70 plus tools. I've worked with some of the most advanced security teams on the planet. They have so many tools, they don't even know what to do with half of them. They're like, okay, this protects this provides insights and capabilities. This is the challenges we're seeing from a lot of these security professionals of saying, okay, I have these 150 different skilled professionals, and they're all compiling all this information together in these 10 different platforms that we really are encouraged to use, but we have over 100 different sums of tools in our environment. Another one is around like what people are claiming around XDR. So this is just kind of some insights and capabilities. So we have these mega product vendors, for example. You can get us, we provide full XDR capabilities and security solutions. The nice thing about that is it's a single SKU usually. It's a simplified portfolio. You can say I have all these tools. I can have full insights and capabilities. The downfall about a lot of these is they're very closed mindset in a lot of ways. They don't have an open ecosystem. And if they do, it's limited and not flexible across their whole entire platform. Like they'll say, oh yeah, everything has to be funneled to my SIEM solution. And from there, you can now correlate externally. So that's some of the challenges you run into with these mega products and vendors. Another one is your security analytics across multiple vendors. So they're focusing specifically on, not necessarily they're focusing specifically on the analytics of what is happening in the environment, but it's not scaling or keeping efficient. So some of these startup companies or some of these smaller organizations have challenges keeping with large volume scales. I think one of the questions just a customer asked me recently is, well, could you protect a million assets? We have customers that have multiple million assets, and they are being protected today. So those are kind of some of the examples is, are you looking at a platform that can scale at a volume at whatever size you want? That's what you should be looking at. Can it respond? Can it look at a petabyte of data within seconds? You want to have those kind of capabilities at your disposal. Another one is EDR vendors are integrating with select partners. This is true. Some EDR vendors are saying we'll integrate with specific vendors. I mean, you could be any partner that provides insights and capabilities, and they kind of create that XDR capability. So from a platform perspective, they can say, here's our insights, here's the extended capability. Our partner provides the XDR capability. That's great. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is what some people are claiming from an XDR solution. And then we have our SIEM and SOAR that is creating that easier to use XDR solution. This is true and not true. As if everyone has used a SIEM or SOAR capability, requires a lot of tuning, automation, tweaking, modifications, APIs change. So unfortunately, it's not really meeting that value of an XDR solution as a fully managed platform for you. You shouldn't have to do anything other than put an analyst in front of it, say, here's your story, so ideally. And then the last one is just MSSP integration for the workflow that kind of creates that XDR platform. So similar to the third point. So you could say, here's our whole entire solution. Our MSSP is providing the XDR story for you and providing it back, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, from the evolving threat landscape, these are some tools and things I've already brought up for you. And you're like, what is an XDR? You've been talking about this terminology. This is where the evolution of XDR is coming in. You're looking at an EPP, EDR solution with an NDR, CDR, SOAR, and SIEM. So you're looking at a complete merger of all these tools into a single platform that's providing capability and insights for a security analyst. So they don't have to jump around on a bunch of things. And I'll show you in just a second. So the main quest for security operations is that single pane of glass. Who's heard of that term? Okay, we see some unhappy hands. I think I like this one, or is it really a single glass of pane? I kind of brought through it a little earlier. There was a security analyst. I said, hey, this is one of the top stocks in the planet. Walk me through your story. He jumped between so many different blades, so many different tools. I'm just like, what are you specialized in? Networking? Okay, that's great. Now you have to jump between all these different things. And he did depend on his SIM, but at the same time, he had to go back and validate in a lot of different panels and information. Ideally, a security operation team shouldn't have to waste their time with their tools. The tools should be working for them. And that's what some of the challenges are right now. And that's why the single pane of glass seems to be not so realistic at this moment in time. Now, just to kind of add more confusion to the XDR story, there's different stories from each different analyst, and I'm going to show a few different ones. So here's Ali from Forrester. She talks from XDR is an evolution of where EDR is validated from endpoint response and detection. That is her view of what XDR is. Now here's Dave at ESG. He says it's an extended and correlation telemetry of security tools, networking, email, and more. And X is the response capabilities across cross-platform. That's another view of what XDR is, which I think is pretty close and to what I agree on. And then here's Peter. I think it's a useful distribution of XDR as a local threat intel and IR integration correlation out of box, not a DIY SOAR and SIM tool. It's just like an EDR with not a bunch of Windows logs in one place. So that's Gartner's point of view. Just to kind of add the more confusion of what the heck XDR is today in today's market. So you can see as our analysts and our professionals who provide insights and capabilities for us in the market, they can't even agree on what truly an XDR platform is. They all have different point of views. So just to kind of add to, hopefully is a key agreement to everyone here, this is the main values I would like to say that XDR is providing. One of them is the most important one, reducing mean time to detection, response, and investigation. It should be able to speed things up for your security analysts. That should be the #1 value. The next one is hopefully reducing costs. I mean, you have all these tools. Hopefully you're now compiling more tools to add more information. That's the big thing right now, right? Here's another tool. It'll tell what your tools are doing. So hopefully this will eliminate the need of that and reduce some costs for you. Another one is improve scale and performance. As I talked about from a foundation perspective, it shouldn't matter if it's 100 machines to a 1.5 million machines. Your tool should be able to handle it and manage it for you and be able to respond across it. And then the other one is SecOps efficiency and skill set. We already know a security professional today is hard to get. I just talked about that a little earlier. What if a tool could provide your security analyst a tier 1 out of college feels like a tier 2 based on insights and capabilities right out of the box? That's ideally what an XDR solution should be providing for you. Now, I'm just going to talk about some myths. I'm probably going a little fast. Is everyone keeping up with me? Cool. This talk won't be too long. It's usually 20, 25 minutes, and you can ask any questions you want, or you can go check out the next session and have a break. But one of the myths around it is XDR can't exist without an EDR foundation. In reality, most attack simulations do, or attack situations happen on an identity level, but from an identity level, it did start at an endpoint level. So a lot of the big trends right now, even ourselves, we did acquire an identity company providing insights and capabilities for SentinelOne. But a big trend is still it happens at the endpoint level. You do have people who are traveling all around the world. Zero trust is growing. There's so many different trends, but endpoint is always there. You want to know what the end user is doing, providing capabilities, insights. So the main draw is providing the capability with an EDR solution on your computer that is the foundation for an XDR solution. So if it's a network-based solution, you're still going to have that limited gap in visibility. Email will, again, have limited gap in visibility. So really, in the end, to have full capability for your security analysts, it needs to have endpoint detection with identity, ideally, in the story. So this is just kind of a more effective approach. And you can see I'm not going to talk about all of it, but correlating with MITRE, correlating with the multiple different plethora of different tools on the platform itself with EDR visibility. The next one is just to kind of show like the storyline that I was just talking about. Imagine right now in your security orchestration, you have all these tools, as I've shown on the left side. You have your endpoint security, your email, your web gateway, network, firewall, the whole list of things that you're just going down like, this is everything I have sent to my SIM today. I have all these data telemetries being brought in. From there, I'm using my threat intelligence that's built in, my telemetry, everything that's telling me what's bad and good, and then it breaks it down into a handful of incidents. So again, reducing the rate of fatigue for your security analysts, improving efficiency, and it's providing the least amount of dwell time for your attackers. So this is just kind of a a non-telemetry idea of what an XDR adds to your visibility for your organization. So it doesn't matter the feed, but ideally it correlates everything for you. The next myth is XDR is just a next-gen SIEM. I've kind of talked about this already. In reality, an XDR and SIEM provide different capabilities for your organization. I'm sure most of you have a SIEM solution for you today, provides compliance, regulations, insights. This is probably the slide you really want to take a picture of if you want to take a picture. But in the difference between the two, a SIEM is more risk-centric, providing compliance, reporting, correlation. XDR is saying, here's a surgical, what's going on in your environment, what's necessary. We have an API integration. We're providing context and visibility for your team. There's tons of firewall logs out there. There's tons of things. Sure, you can send them to a SIEM. That's for compliance and regulations. XDR is going to say, this is what happened. We correlated and collected what's necessary. So that's the big difference between the two. So don't think of it as just as a SIEM replacement. There is big value to an XDR solution. It does consumption. It does integrations. It does intelligent response. I mean, it provides a lot of simple integrations, where a SIEM solution does require that fine-tuning I was talking about a little earlier. The next one is more data yields better results. I hate this one because I used to work with SIEMs all the time. More data is not always the answer. Unfortunately, most of the time it's more like what's your budget, not how much data you have, because you can only store so much data with so much budget. But in the end, it's not true. It kind of brings back to the same story with the XDR one with SIEM. It really is depending on the efficiency of what's necessary for your security analysts. So that is not necessarily the case. You don't really need to have all the data to provide capabilities and insights for your security analysts, just what's necessary. Now, how that's being done is you can bring in all kinds of things that's relevant based on your security team. So it needs to be an open structure, open ecosystem. If you're paying for 40 different tools, for example, I want that to be integrated into a single solution, provides capability and insights based on all the API calls from that single solution. That's what XDR should be providing for you out of context. So it doesn't require formalization, parsers, data configurations. Is it on-prem? It doesn't really matter. We just connect to that tool, provide context and visibility for you. So the data is actually surgical based on the tool itself. You don't have to figure it out yourself as a security analyst. This is just kind of talking about the data management problems today. I'll kind of speed it up so you guys can see it. Kind of highlighting the same things. I think there's one more. One more on the top right. There you go. So you can see on the left side, this is very common. A lot of security teams do this today. They have their EDR tool, they have their SIEM tool, and then they have their cloud platforms. Keep it on cloud. It makes it simpler, easier, cheaper. And then you have your EDR, provides capabilities, insights, what happened on your endpoints, visibility, what detections, and then you have your SIEM that's just the compiling of everything else in the end, a lot of the times. And then from there, it depends on the security team you're talking to. They spend most of the time in the SIEM, or they spend most of the time in the EDR tool. That's depending on who you're working with. And then you have maybe that specialization cloud team if your team's big enough. So ideally, you don't have to have this data management issue. It's all brought together for you on a platform, provides context across all three if necessary. And then you don't have to worry about data retention. The data retention could be sent anywhere. It could be an S3 bucket. It just correlates and pulls information for you, unstructured. It doesn't have to be structured data. That would be ideal as well. And then from a skill shortage perspective, once again, the tool should be teaching your team, not the other way around. You don't have to teach your team to use the tool. So it's something to think about from a data management perspective. Now, number 4, all XDR platforms are created equal. I kind of talked about this earlier, about different mindsets. You have your networking, you have your email, you have your MSP offered XDR solutions. There's quite a list of different things. The main thing that's the differentiator, kind of I brought up earlier in I think the first slide, was around the closed mindset and the open mindset of XDR solutions. So you can have this SKU or whatever offering that's available today. Here's our whole entire enchilada. We can have everything for you. You can have the toppings, the sides, extra fees. It doesn't really matter. We provide you our XDR solution, where another one could be an open native solution and leverages the tools that you have at your disposal. So it doesn't matter the type of integration. It's more important about the type of ecosystem that your platform or your company uses. You can even use Mandiant, for example. If they had 50 different tools at their disposal, what if they use all of them together in a single platform and provide a correlation? That'd be awesome, versus having to create it themselves, which a lot of organizations have to do today. I forgot about this slide. Sorry about that. The last one is around just from our ecosystem perspective. We are an open ecosystem ourselves. It just kind of shows from our visibility. You can have mobile, network, cloud, containers, endpoint. That's our platforms, but at the same time, you can integrate any of these other solutions or even one of the same solutions. So if you had your own mobile, your network, your cloud, it can be integrated into our solution as well. So it doesn't have to necessarily be our tool and for you to have that correlation and visibility across your organization. And then this is the last myth that I'm going to be talking about, is XDR is only for highly mature security teams. That is not true. XDR delivers improved outcomes depending on the size and orchestration. And I break it down on this slide right here. So it doesn't matter the type of company size. For example, a small company, they now have automation, visibility, insights, capabilities that they don't have today with the legacy tools. I know a lot of small companies, they just set up a tool, they let it run, hopefully it doesn't create a lot of incidents, and then they see an incident and they respond to it. Then the response is an interesting story. That's where they start struggling. They have 3 people that manage, let's think of a school district, three people managing 100 different schools in this county. And you're like, okay, that's incredible. Yeah, each school may have its own SOC, but they all don't work very well together. They all have all their own tools. It creates a different conversation. So they may not have a very mature security team. And then you have your mid-sized organization. They are on top of it. They have the greatest tools in their opinion. They have everything that's visible and capable for them to do today. But the real thing they still struggle with is evolution of their own company, moving to the cloud, moving with things that aren't visible or what they're aware of. This allows them to align a little bit better, respond a little bit faster, and not be as skilled as necessary across these new tools and technologies that they're not used to today. And the same thing works for the larger organizations. You have less customizations, less tools that are necessary for you to have the same capability and visibility. It's very true. A lot of the biggest SOCs today have a lot of custom tools at their disposal. So this kind of reduces the complexity for them to have to create some of those things. So just kind of giving you a sweet spot, this is just a visibility perspective. As I was just talking about a minute ago, it's really an XDR is ideally for these organizations because they don't have that capability today. The smaller and the mid-size is really what it's being targeted for from a customer perspective, but it does still work for large organizations, and that's why some large organizations are leveraging it, but they may already have some kind of capabilities themselves they built. But a lot of the times, small organizations, they just find this a godsend. You show them this whole entire attack situation, how it works, how it integrates, they're like, we didn't know half those things today, that's amazing. And then you work at these mid-size, they're like, that would save us a lot of time, hours, and our security teams could be more prioritized on real incidents, not noise. So that's the big value for a medium company as well. So the main takeaways from this presentation, this is my last slide, I'm almost done, is what XDR is providing. So the first one is data speed at scale. It doesn't matter how much volume you're bringing in, it doesn't matter the amount of feeds you have, it should be able to work and provide context for your security analysts. You can say, hey, here's all my different tools at my disposal, those 25 to 50 different tools we were talking about. It could be a terabyte a day, it doesn't really matter. It correlates and responds and provides you an incident story right off the bat, what's necessary. You don't have to finish it, feed it, normalize it, figure out what's going on. It should just provide that for you. Another one is, I just kind of talked about it, complete visibility. You're providing that context and information for your security analysts. So it doesn't just map to, it should map to MITRE, it should map to what is happening, explain it to your security analysts. A lot of modern and, advanced new tools today, they provide an incident, they don't tell you why. Security analysts hate that. They're like, okay, that just doesn't do anything for me. I wanted to explain the story. I wanted to explain what happened. That's where you want to have full visibility across all these different tools. And then say, hey, if an incident did happen in my tool, and I integrate with Azure AD and Okta, and I use a different platform for network visibility, I can see from there, from those different APIs, what happened, all within ideally the same tool and the same platform. So that's where XDR visibility comes in. And then you have your native integrations, kind of talking back to those ones I just mentioned. This should require no coding. This should require no configurations. The most it needs is an API key and say you're done, you're authorized. And then you're going to have the check and validation that's necessary for your team. It should be RBAC friendly. It should be easily integrated to whatever standards that your security team needs. You shouldn't have to be able to have a dedicated team of data scientists just to figure everything out, data normalize, and make sure it works for your security team. That's where the native integrations come in. And then the last one is automation resolution. How many people can say they can respond to a ransomware today with a single click across 100,000 machines within seconds? You should have that capability. You should be able to say, we know our playbook, we know how we're going to handle certain situations. We want to be able to respond and remediate as quickly as possible while feeling as confident as possible from a security analyst point of view. And then the last one is reducing complexity. Us as individuals constantly are being challenged on how many different tools we have. Like I talked about, how many people know everything across all tools, all information? It's very hard to find those individuals. So if you don't have those people, ideally the tool should provide insights and visibility for you as a security analyst to make your jobs easier and better for you. And that's the main values I would say as an XDR, if this is the takeaway for you. And that is it for me. There is one last slide if you want to see more, but thank you so much. I appreciate you all being here, and I can answer any questions you guys have around XDR. Hopefully that made some sense for you. Yeah?
Hey, Chris, two questions. One is, do you see the SIM market in XDR on a collision course? In other words, do you see XDR taking over SIM budgets?
Not today. I do see it on a collision course, though, if you want my honest opinion. The reason why is kind of like I brought up earlier. It provides a lot of the same context. So a SIM may be what's not provided on an XDR scale. And a lot of XDR platforms are moving into we don't care where the data resides, we can integrate it, like ourselves. You can point to any S3 bucket, we'll just shoot it over there for you. We don't care. The data is yours. We look at unstructured and structured data, we just allow you to correlate it. SIMs usually normalize it, parse it. You have to do a lot of things to it. You don't have to do that with XDRs, but there is values to having a SIM solution is you can have everything in there, where an XDR does require marketplace integrations usually. So that API integration, we should be handling the code for you. A SIM, you can technically push anything into a SIM in the end. It just depends on how much frictionless you want. Like a next-gen SIM, they have their own marketplaces too, but in the end, they always have that whatever bucket, and they do offer that as a compliance regulation perspective. So I don't think those two will be in the near future. It's going to be more, here's our surgical XDR security analytics information, here's everything else that's not necessarily that we would need it from a compliance perspective to know what's going on, but we don't really search it unless we have to for if the FBI calls us 6 months down the line and we need to provide that information for them. So
on that note, do you see, SIMs typically will coalesce data, duplicate data all in one centralized place?
Yep.
Do you see XDR also doing that, maybe with a smaller subset of important metadata, for example, or do you see them more focused on pointing to existing data sources?
They point to existing data sources. You can, if you have a good SIM XDR solution, I should say, it could do both, but ideally point. So I don't have to store all of my cloud data. We talked about it earlier, it's siloed. Why not have the XDR solution just API call it only on the incident information necessary? So you pull those machines, you pull those entities, you pull everything. Doesn't matter the solution, we correlate it for you, so you don't have to store that data. It's already stored on that platform for you. So that's where I think it's going to go in the future, because it's already being utilized like that today on a lot of platforms. Even our MSSPs, they do that today. They just query that's necessary and provide insights. So that's where I see it going. Yes?
So, a lot of the success of this tool is built on the intelligence that it would have. But where do you get that experience of the intelligence?
That's a great question. So an XDR solution can do both. It can leverage the intelligence that's on the platform baseline itself, or you can even feed your own, like Mandiant's intelligence in there if necessary, or whoever you're using ideally. So you should be able to take advantage of whatever threat platform you're taking advantage of, including open source ones like VirusTotal or whatever's necessary. For ourselves, we do a lot of correlation across machine learning algorithms, honestly. Like that's where we have our pride and shine. We respond very quickly. We don't require network activity. And that is a lesson learned that we provide. So we do have researchers that provide that, just like a lot of these other organizations, like Mandiant, for example. But at the same time, we do learn from what's going on currently today. So we respond and push updates if necessary. But a lot of it is behavior detections, so because it's using machine learning. So even if it's not normally there, it can detect that it's an abnormality and provide insights quickly to its security analysts. That's where all the other API integrations really shine. So because if anyone knows today, you can use the tool, provides so many alerts. You're like, all right, is this real? Is this closed? Well, what if all your other tools all talk together and said, okay, now this is a real incident. This is an abnormality from authentication. I see them traveling around the world. Maybe it's me. Hopefully that's not a big deal. But maybe I was traveling in Russia and I have no plans on being in Russia. That's just an example. Or we're having authentication into machines that I've never touched before. Those are the kind of things that you can gain insights across all your different tools, and that's where the XDR solutions really bring that story together for you. So it's, even though the threat intelligence and The tool itself may not provide the answer. That's the fear with 0 days and vulnerabilities. Hopefully other tools will show a aha moment for your security analyst. Like, this is weird. This is not something that should be allowed, or something odd is going on. Maybe a script has gone rogue, who knows? And that's where you take action. I just talked to a school district just recently because I was talking to schools. They saw weird activity happen. This is not normal. And they decided to shut it down. This was the response. And it was their school bus system, unfortunately. So it was was managing all their school buses. They had a third party integrated for them. But it acted very roguelike. So detection provided capabilities for them. They did everything right. And it was just the way the tool was deployed. Just kind of giving you an example, it's all this behavior. A lot of things are going behavior driven, not necessarily hash driven or bad examples, so to speak. That's how we're catching memory attacks and other things. So, any other questions I can provide? Or did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Did everyone enjoy the session at least? Did you learn a little something? I didn't see anyone snoozing, so that's a good sign.
I'll ask one more.
Sure.
So you had that slide up about single pane of glass.
Yes, and hopefully that was a little funny.
Do you see XDR becoming the solution to that? Do you see it becoming just another single pane of glass that you have to integrate into your tool stack?
Ideally, from a single pane of glass perspective, it's going to be hard in the near future for you to get to that. I mean, even today, we try to provide as much as we can in our tool. It's a dream goal. It's a moonshot goal, right? I think I might have passed it. But the main driver is, I think it should go there. That's the thing. It should provide the context and visibility across all the tools, because it should say, hey, we don't care about the integration. Ideally, in the future, any kind of tool will say, here's that API, I don't care, it integrates, and here's my custom feed. Like, they can offer the customization. That's probably going to be your DevOps, more friendly XDR tool. A lot of them are going to low-code or no-code solutions, so you don't have to figure all that out. But a low-code can say, here's the API. It just kind of walks you through it, and then you can integrate it. I think that's going to be more in the future, and then you can integrate it into hopefully a single pane of glass. A lot of tools, I think ServiceNow is a great example. A lot of people use ServiceNow as their almost single pane of glass for all their incident management, but they still have to go back to the tools to validate and send everything there. So I don't know if that will ever change from an incident management perspective and a visibility attack perspective, but I think it will be narrowed down. Instead of going to 20 different panes, you may go down to 5 or 4 or 3. I think in the near future, with that XDR being the new trend in the market. At least that's my prediction anyways. Yes?
I think first reference like SIMs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts of like log links, like security log links? Do you consider security log links just like a long-term storage SIM, or
So security log links are a huge concern. All depends on how you're looking at it. You can look at recent security events. Even some of them recently have been due to log links or storage of information. To kind of answer your question, it is evolving into the scale of whatever cloud solution is being allowed out there, for example. If a cloud platform is allowing you to meet the volume of your company, it's probably good enough, especially at a cheaper volume. You're probably not going to do like a extreme archive compressed version for a hot data set, but ideally that's where it's going because it's so much cheaper. Even if you look at, the only reason you may want to stay away from that is if you need to have structural data with obfuscation and other things. That's where SIMs can still come and shine. So if you want to be able to allow all your security analysts, I remember talking, I used to work on SIMs a lot, the ability to say, here's all the information, but I don't want to see the names of all the VPs in my company, so it didn't get leaked by accident. There's some value of having a SIM platform on a database structure, so to speak, versus a data lake, where a data lake would be a lot cheaper, scales at a larger volume, but then your front-end solution has to work all the volume. So for example, ours, when a customer makes a query, we spin up tens of thousands of servers to do that instantly for you. It's just like the Google mindset. We just say, hey, you want to answer, we provide as quick as possible, whatever gives the quickest response, here's the answer. And we just use a data lake to provide that for you. So we just search your pool, which is your data, and that's how we work. Does that answer your question? Cool. Any other questions? Well, I can talk to you afterwards if you want to. That's all I have. Cool.